Hello and welcome to Glasgow Airport in 1953, and with this sort of iconic silhouette in front of us, this can only be a DC-3, and if it was light enough you'll be able to see that it's in British European Airways BEA livery. It's coming up for 7:30 AM, and the plan for this video is to replicate a BEA flight from their 1953 timetable, and this is a April to June timetable, so I don't know whether they change the times in winter. I mean, I'm using 7:30 at the moment in December is maybe a bit darker than it would be, but we'll see how we get on. And the route we're going to fly, there was a route map there. So first of all, the plane, so they did fly the DC-3 at that time. Here's their aircraft fleet, and the Pioneer type is a DC-3, and this is a picture of it here. So that's what we're going to be flying, and I don't know what happened to that map, but let's just go to the route that we're going to be doing. Here's a map. Essentially, we're going to be doing. They did a single flight, which went Glasgow, Inverness, Wick, Orkney, and then on to Shetland. So stopping at each one of those. Departing Glasgow and then stopping at each one of those airports I mentioned until getting to Shetland, and that's the one we're going to recreate. I'm just going to do the first leg today. That's Glasgow to Inverness, and here we go. So here's the relevant part of the timetable. So it's B line 952 departing Glasgow. I don't know what Renfrew Airport is or was, whether it's the same airport as it is now with a different name, but it was departure at 7:45, and then the first leg being to Inverness, Darcross, which is the current airport, arriving at 8:55. I think we might be a little bit late departing, but we'll see how we get on. So that's the plan. So without further ado, let's jump in. Now, I have to say that I absolutely love the DC-3. It's all I've been flying recently in the sim. Let's get some power. Let's get the battery on. And that wasn't a very good idea because now I can't see where the ground power is. So let's turn some lights on. Can we get some lights here? Yeah, we can get panel lights and cabin lights. Now I can find the ground power. Let's get that on. And we'll leave this cabin lighting on for now, then we'll sort it. We'll turn it down in a minute. Okay, first things first. We've got no hydraulic pressure, so let's open this valve and pump up some hydraulic pressure. So hydraulics are used for flaps and landing gear and so on. And this is a manual pump for the hydraulic system. That's done. Now let's just check our power levers. So throttles will just crack open a little because we're going to be starting the engines. Props we've got full forward, which is correct. And mixture we have in cut off. Now this is one of the retro liveries, so it is actually GPS and slightly more modern autopilot equipped. I'm not really going to use these much. It'll mainly be VORs, but we'll use the GPSs to get a DME readout, so we'll use them for that at least. Okay, let's proceed towards engine start. So first thing I'm going to do, and also I'm going to say some of my controls are on the Stream Deck, so you'll see me operate some of the switches without actually physically clicking them with the mouse. And also I have a sort of external device with a rotary encoder, a bit like a Class Echo, and I use that for some of the other features as well. So just to say, not everything will be done with the mouse, but the controls should operate. So I'm going to turn on position lights, so we've got some lights outside and the beacon, which you can actually turn on if you send the command, even though there's no beacon switch currently in the cockpit. I should say I'm using the Duckworth mod, mainly just to get some of the other fixes like the fuel tanks and the outside air temperatures corrected and a few things like that, rather than the flight model, which I thought seemed pretty good anyway, but it also seems good in the Duckworth mod, so I'm going to stick with that for now. Let's turn on some fuel. So fuel selector is here for left and right tanks. I'm going to turn them both off first, make sure they're off, and then we're going to go left main and right main for fuel, and we'll make sure that the gauge here is showing left main, and that's all good. Now I think we're pretty much ready to go for an engine start. We start with the right engine. I'm going to open the window so we can sort of hear it a bit better. I'm going to make sure I can I have the right mag selected on my controller, so I can rotate it now. I'm going to start with the mags off, and I'm going to turn the mags on once the engine's rotating, and then bring in fuel so that we don't flood the engines. At least that's the way I like to start them. So start with the right engine, so everything's clear. Check the levers. Handbrake is on. Right booster pump can come on, and then we'll spin up the right starter. Give it a few seconds for it to build up momentum, and then we'll mesh the starter. And when you mesh the starter, you're meant to count 12 blades. I can't really see them from here, so I'm just going to give it about 5 seconds. Let's mesh the starter now. Wait for the blades to turn, then I'm going to operate the magnetos and introduce fuel. Right, let's go for magnetos now. Let's go fuel, and let's prime the right engine. I find it sometimes takes 2 or 3 primes. And it's going. Excellent. Let's just have a quick look at the gauges. So we should see oil pressure rising, which we do. RPM I'm going to keep low until the engine warms up, so keep it below 1000 while the oil pressure is building up and the oil is warming up. Now, can I shut the window? There we go. Let's get the left engine started as well. All looks clear, and we can see the prop on this one. So right booster pump can come off, left booster pump on. Let's make sure we've got the left mag selected, ready to control it. And then left booster pump on, left starter energize. We'll let that spin up, give it about 5 seconds or so. You can hear it in the background as a sort of whine. And we'll mesh, and then we're going to do magnetos and fuel. So mesh, count 12. 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that's 12. Mags on. Enrich the left engine. Left prime. Oh. And I don't think that's going to start. Okay. Looks like my starting of the left engine has failed. Alright, let's turn everything for the left engine off and have another go. So, mixture's back to cut off. We have got the throttle cracked open. Magnetor's back to off. Left booster pump on. Energize the left starter. Maybe I waited a bit too long before turning the mags on. Mesh the starter. I'm not going to count the full 12 this time. Oh, I think it might be already running almost. Yep, it's running. It's a bit weird like that sometimes. I'm not sure whether that's the mod or... Normally it will go on after 2 or 3 primes, but it just took 2 start attempts there. Anyway, that's great. Oh, of course I've now stopped it because my mixture control was out of sync. Okay, we're gonna have to have what? Yeah, let's have one more go. So what happened there was that when you operate the magnetos, the mixture gets automatically enriched. And then when I had my throttle quadrant back at 0, so as soon as I moved it, it detected it was off, cut the mixture, yeah. Let's try again. This time let's just leave the mixture on, since it's partly warmed up now anyway. Okay, sorry about this. Left starter. And that shouldn't be... oh, that's mesh. We might as well go for it, I suppose. And it's going. Right. Let's not touch it again. Okay, we have two... Let's just shut the window because it's a bit cold. And let's just check that we've got oil pressure coming up. Yeah, both engines have oil pressure. Temperature, obviously, the right engine's a bit higher. That's all good. Cowl flaps we'll open in a second, let the engines warm up. In fact, let's open them for the right engine because that's nearly there. Great, okay. After engine starts, so we can turn the inverter on. We can turn ground power off. I think that's all we need for now. In terms of navigation, let's take a look at where we're going. I am going to follow. There's not much wind here at the moment. It's sort of variable or slightly from the north. So I'm going to go for the foil 3 Bravo departure to foil. That's a lot easier to fly with basic VOR and headings. And so initially it's 051 radial from Glasgow VOR. So let's get that tuned in on 115.4. So I'm just going to do that externally. And 115.4. And swap that over. There we go. We should have the identifier Glasgow, and you can see at the moment we're close to the VOR. 051's our initial radial that we want, so let's get that dialed in as well. 051. Okay. I will leave the tracking on just so you can see. Okay. There's no symlink. There's possibly not going to be any tracking. I wonder if I can quickly start that. Probably not. Okay, let's do without the moving maps. Okay. What else do we need to do? Altimeter is set. Shift B. We are going to be a bit late, it's coming up to 7:45 already. Let's turn off this main light now and just leave the two. Oh no, that wasn't the one I wanted. No, I think it... Let's just turn on the two side rolls. That'll do, nicely. Okay, trims are already at 0. Flaps, we'll just double check. Yep, they're down. I think we're good to taxi. Taxi diagram might be handy, so let's bring that up. If we could enable moving maps, then we're actually parked approximately here on a stand about here, so we just should need to find Golf and halt and taxi to Foxtrot 1. So let's see if we can do that. Let's get the landing lights on so we can see where we're going. And I think it looks like we should be able to take a swing to the left here to turn around. Looks safer to me, so let's release the parking brake. Cowl flaps, we better open them for the left engine now, as the temp is coming up. Okay, so both cowl flaps are open, that's good. Release the parking brake. Bit of power to the right engine. As there's no one here, I'm going to do the sort of run up and final checks just here before we head on to the main taxiway. So let's just put the brake on again. Let's go to 1500 RPM. And we'll do a mags check. So we're on the left mag, so let's watch the RPM as we turn the left to left and right. And we've got a drop, same drop of both. And let's switch to the right mag. And we've got a drop there, and the same drop again. Back to normal. And then we'll also just cycle the props. Prop RPM. Flush some oil through the propeller pitch mechanism. Right, that's all done. One more thing to do. Let's set our altitude. Initial altitude on foil really is, we want to be coming up to maximum of 6,000, so I'm just going to set that. So let's dial in 6,000. Okay, let's go. Continue our taxi. We shouldn't have far to go. There's Golf. Nothing coming. Hopefully the sky will start to lighten up as we get going, and we'll be able to have a proper look at the aircraft. This should be Foxtrot 1, I believe. So we'll take this departure. Yeah, it's starting to brighten up already. Foxtrot, yeah. We'll assume we're cleared to take off. We've already done most of our checks, but let's just get our transponder on to mode Charlie. Lights are on, flaps are down, trim is sorted. We'll turn the fuel pumps on when we're on the runway. Looks clear. VOR will be following here to keep on the course of 051, I think it was, to start with. up to a distance of about 4.7 miles. Right, let's get lined up on the runway straight. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to turn on the boost pumps, and I'm going to lock the tail wheel, and I've got a key binding for that just because it makes it easier to, it's very hard to find it. Tail wheel locked. We'll also turn pitos on, and we're good to go. Flaps, trim is 0, flaps full forward. Cowl flaps can stay open until we take off, and then we'll put them to trail once we're in the climb. Okay, release the brakes. I'm going to go full power, advancing sort of slowly. I'm going to keep a slight forward pressure on the stick, on the control column. A little bit of right rudder. You've got to be quite quick to dance on the rudder and not overcorrect. And we're going to look for, tail should come up round about now at 60 miles per hour, and then we're going to rotate at 90. So let's see if we can stay straight until then. I'm not doing a particularly good job of it today. There we go, that's 90. Let's rotate. Positive rate, gear up, dab on the brakes. Let's watch that nose, don't want it to come up too high. Let's get the engine back to 40 inches, props back to 2500. Again, watching that pitch, we want to aim for about 120 miles per hour because that's a single engine safe speed. Let's get our VOR needle lined up. Let's bring our chart up as well. So we're looking for 051 until D4.9, so we'll use the distance on here for that. Let's leave our landing lights on for now. So we're sort of on track now on the bearing pointer. So let's stay on this heading. Keep climbing at this sort of rate. Looking for distance of 4.9. In fact, I may just take the opportunity here to sync the heading and go autopilot as soon as everything's nice and stable. So let's go heading, sync. Let's turn the autopilot on. Let's go heading. Go out. And our VS, I guess, is a bit. Let's just get back climbing again. Let's go up. Yeah, we overshot the speed way there, sorry. We should have been VS mode. We can correct that. Now how are we for distance? 4.1. So we're going to make a left turn to 339 degrees in a minute. And we can, let's get that climb rate going. 4.6, 4.7. So let's turn left to 339. The autopilot in this, the cap 140 is it, or 150, seems to do quite a steep bank angle. So now we're turning this, we should be turning at this point here. And we should be between 4,000 and 6,000 feet by the time we reach D10, which we should comfortably be. We're coming up over 2 now. And then eventually we intercept the 010 radial, so I'm going to dial that in as a bearing. So when we see this come in, we know we've hit the 010 radial and we can follow that towards foil. So the foil 3 Bravo is pretty simple really. Now then, how are we doing? Speed's okay, we've got to watch it because we want to keep it above 120. Flaps, can go back to trail. For the climb. Climb power, we can come back now a bit. Let's come back to 36. And about 23 on the RPM. Let's lose some of these lights. I think we don't need them all on now. Well, the booster pumps can come off. Landing lights, let's turn them off because it is quite good visibility. I think we can lose. Yeah, let's lose that. Co-pilot sidewalk can stay on. Let's just go with lighting like this for now. So now we just got to be careful, watch our speed. Yeah, let's maybe get the VS down a bit, maybe 9 or 800. And we're looking for, essentially we're just now, we're fine on the altitude restriction. We've got to be between 4,000 and 6,000 when we're 10 DME. And we're 7.5 DME and we're nearly at 4,000. So that's absolutely fine. So the only thing we have to do now is, as the bearing pointer comes in for this 010 radial, we need to turn right to just track it. And in fact we can go into nav mode then, so let's start our turn now. And if I'm going to call that good enough to hit nav. Just got to watch that speed. Let's just drop our rate of climb to about 700 so that we can maintain 120. I'm going to lose this now because now we're essentially heading to foil on the 010 radial. We're going to stop the climb at 6,000, but then assume that we've been given clearance to climb to our cruising height today, which is going to be flight level 9,000 feet. Let's have a quick look outside now. It's still a bit dark, but there you go. That's the lights of Glasgow behind us on an early morning departure. To the west coast and the islands to the left. Loch Lomond. Now where are we? Still only 10.9 DME, so we're not quite at foil yet. Is it 16 DME? In fact, we can lose this now, I think. Look at the rest of the route. So this is our overall route. As you can see, once we get to foil, we just follow this airway. I'm not sure if it's marked. Yeah, N560. Maximum flight level 200, but I think 9,000 covers the minimum. So we're okay on that, and it's a bearing of 009. So once we get to foil, we'll just change our bearing to be 009 and follow that. And eventually when we get near Inverness, we'll switch to the Inverness VOR, which is at the other end. So we should have coverage the whole way. And we've leveled off, and I didn't even notice. Okay. Let's assume now that we've been given clearance to climb to 9,000, which is our cruising altitude. So 9,000 VS, start to climb. We'll start the climb gradually. Go 500 feet per minute for now. Once we're at cruise, we can switch the tanks over to the alt tanks. We can turn the flaps off, and we can select auto lean. Although I don't think auto lean actually does anything. So yeah, I've been really enjoying flying the DC-3. Quite like sort of tail draggers anyway, and it's nice to have one that you can see out of when you're taxiing around. And also, you know, the cockpit I think is great. It's really well modelled. It flies really well. There's a video by the original flight model developer explaining how sort of some of the characteristics of the plane, how it's unstable at different speeds. And that still seems to be modelled in, even with the mods. And I think it's a really good balance of sort of challenging, but also fairly straightforward and fun. And I think, you know, every takeoff and landing is kind of different with it. So I think it's great. It's surprising how fast it travels to Inverness as well. Considering it's an old aircraft, I kind of thought, well, it's going to take a while, but I don't think it actually does, as we shall hopefully see. I'll probably skip part of the flight, but let's at least get up to cruise. So let's just do a bit more VS 700. So let's have a look at our engine gauges. Oops. So, didn't mean to do that, sorry. That's not a good idea. Let's get back to about 2300. For cruise we'll drop back to 30 inches. Yes, so let's just check the gauges. So all pressure is looking good. I think that's in the green. Fuel pressure is fine. Temps are fine, they're in the green. That's oil temp and cylinder temperatures. Carb air is a bit cold. OAT is minus. Perhaps we should engage the carb auto de-icer. I mean, there's no visible moisture, but let's just turn that on anyway. There's nothing on the windscreen, is there? No ice there. I think we're free of ice at the moment. How are we doing now? We're coming up to 8,000. We are slowing a little, so I'm just going to drop down to 600 on the VS. I'm just using the up and down selected buttons. I've got them mapped, so control. I'm hoping we can do a visual approach at Inverness. I think the weather was a bit iffy, but not too bad. Certainly it was light winds. So we're now 21.4 DME, so we're actually past foil. We're somewhere here, almost on our, well, we're on our en route leg now. And we have got some icing. Now we've got pitot on. Let's turn on the windshield heaters. Turn on this, whatever this other heater is. I'm not sure about prop de-icer. I mean, there's not a lot of ice around. Let's leave that for now. Let's just get the windshield cleared. Maybe that was just because we went through a very light cloud layer. We are slowing down, mind, so let's drop the VS. Maybe we do need some de-ice. Let's put prop de-icer on for a bit. And we're nearly at our cruise height now anyway. Just slightly concerned about that speed. It has dropped below 120. But then we have also lost some manifold pressure as we've gained height, so let's just get everything back. We should be levelling off now anyway. just get our ground speed. We aren't going particularly slow. We do have flaps up, gear up. Okay, we're speeding up a bit now. Alright, now we're in cruise. Let's shut the flaps. Engine cowl flaps can close. Let's get mixtures to auto lean. There's a kind of detent somewhere there. I'll do it for now. And what I'm going to do now is I'm also going to briefly turn the fuel boost pumps on, and then I'm going to switch the tanks over to using the left aux and the right aux tanks rather than the main tanks. I'm going to set the fuel gauge to show left aux. Let's just check right aux as well. Yeah, both of those are reading a good amount, so we'll stick on those now. And we've got some speed back, which is good. Ground speed's not great, so we must have a headwind. So this flight may take a bit of time. I think that's Loch Tay ahead of us. Let's go to cruise speed. 30 inches and 2000 RPM. Now then, what course are we on actually? Did I set the course to 009 and we're on 010? We should be, so our nav course, we're still on the Glasgow VR, but we're on the 010 radio, we should be on 009, so let's just change that. Yeah, so this autopilot is not great. It kind of swings around quite a lot before it settles on the course, and it seems to use full bang angle all the time, and not half bank or anything like that. So. Okay. Let's try and pop the ice off now. We do seem to be a bit slower than usual. With these settings, I'd normally expect indicated airspeed near 170 or 180. I'm just trying to think if I've missed something out. Let's just go over everything again. So the cowl flaps are closed. Temps look okay. Carb air is a bit cold, but not bad. Oil pressure's okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe for some reason this is all we're going to get today. Let's have a look outside. Nothing obviously left open there, like flaps or gear or cowl flaps or anything, so and you can see things are starting to brighten up nicely outside. Okay, so I'll skip a bit now. My speed is coming back a bit more. Ground speed's going up. Let's just before I pause for a bit. let's just work out where we're going to start our descent. Now then, if we want to make a visual approach at Inverness, then we want to be down to sort of circuit height, about 10 miles out. Circuit heights, let's call it for the sake of argument 1,000 feet. So we're at 9,000, we want to lose 8. Just multiplying by 3, that gives you 24. But with the DC-3, you don't want to normally descend too rapidly. You want to be a bit careful with your engine power and prop RPM settings so you don't get the windmilling props trying to drive the engine. And that can cause, I don't know, bearing or oil problems. So it's best, I mean, opinion seems to be divided on the subject, but the most common sense sort of thing I've read seems to be that you shouldn't exceed 500 feet per minute. I guess that's partly a passenger comfort thing as well. If you're in a non-pressurized cabin and you're near 10,000 feet, you want to come down gradually. So we're going to go 500 feet per minute, which is less of a descent rate than you'd normally do with the 3 times rule. So that 24, I'm going to add at least 50% on. We're going to, because rather than sort of 700 feet per minute, we're going to be more like 500. So let's say 24, 34, 36 miles out. And then we've got 10 miles to allow for, so I want to get to the height by 10 miles out, so that's 46. And then I want to allow time to slow down, so I'm going to call it 50. So I'm going to start descent 50 miles away from Inverness. Now, how do we know when we're 50 miles away from Inverness? Well, let's try and get the Inverness VOR tuned in over here on nav 2. Let's do it with the GPS unit this time. So we will select the nav unit frequency and we'll go 109.2. Yeah, 109.2, and we'll swap. Now, probably won't be picking it up yet. When we do pick it up, we'll expect to see the green needle swing round. But just to give us a clue and to benefit from some modern tech, let's go direct to Inverness so that we know what ballpark we're at for the distance. And you'll probably be surprised that it isn't actually that far. So let's go back to the 530, go direct to, and it's EGPE. We're just going to use this as an aid to our descent point. There we go, Inverness. Activate. You can see we're only 56 miles away, so, and our estimated time en route is only 22 minutes, so we are going to have to start descending in about 5 miles. And this is not a DME readout, but it will be good enough to tell us when to start descending. So you can see, you know, although Glasgow to Inverness might seem like a long way, and it is if you've ever driven the road, even by DC-3 it's pretty quick. Even by DC-3 it doesn't seem to be wanting to perform very well today. So in fact, I may not pause. I'll probably just, let's look outside for a bit, we'll come back in and then we'll get a nice slow descent going. Actually, interrupting myself, I've just remembered something else I haven't done, which is one of my common faults, is I haven't set standard on the altimeter. So let's just do that now, and that's gonna, oh yeah, that's gonna make us want to climb. So Well, let's get the props forward, a bit of power in, and let's get up to our flight level. So would have been in trouble for that. As we're nearly at 50 miles, it does seem a bit pointless, but we might as well try and do it semi-properly. So as soon as we've hit 9,000, we're going to start descending again. Okay, there we are, leveled off again. Back to cruise. Settings. Right, start descending. I'm going to dial in, the MSA is probably about 5,000 feet, but we're going to come down so slowly and we can see, so I'm going to put in 1,500 feet, which is closer to what we're going to want for our final approach height. And then I am going to change to VS, and we're going to get down like 500 feet per minute. And that should take us down to 1,500 feet. Now, we don't want to speed up too much here, so I'm going to pull the power back, and I'm going to bring the RPMs back to about 1,800. For a very gradual descent. And hopefully avoid overdriving anything. Have we got Inverness VOR yet? Nope, we've still got no movement on the green needle. That's fine. We're still tracking Glasgow radial 009, so we're okay on that. Oh, let's ditch the charts because I'm hoping we don't need them anymore. Although if the weather isn't good at Inverness, we may, so let's leave them for now. In fact, let's just have a contingency plan in case the weather is not VFR. What's the latest METAR for Inverness? Wind's now 240. It's actually favouring runway 23. I haven't got an arrival here. If we open the charts, Inverness, we can look at this one. So if we have to, we'll follow this procedure. We'll just come in. Because we're coming from the south anyway. We'll come in straight to the beacon. And then we'll fly outbound. I don't know if I guess we're cat A and B really, 041 degrees and turn in. But if we can do it visually, my aim is to come in and then enter a right traffic pattern for runway 23. So come out over the bay here, turn back in and land. That's what I'm hoping we can do. Now let's just keep an eye on things here in the descent. We are speeding up a bit, but we're okay, we're not too fast. We're alright on temps, so we'll keep everything shut for now, but when we get nearer the bottom of our descent, there's a few things we've got to do. We'll want to turn the landing lights back on. We'll want to set the fuel selectors back to left and right main for landing, and we'll want to get the mixtures back to to auto rich. We don't need to worry about that quite yet. So this is us now descending towards Inverness. How are we doing for time? The original timetable had the arrival in Inverness at 8:55. Sorry. Oh, we're doing fine. It's what about just after 8:15, so we should have absolutely loads of time here. Now we'll need to go to local QNH obviously at some point. Let's try and not forget that one. Local QNH appears to be 1032. In fact, we may as well go to that now as we're descending all the way down below transition altitude. So let's go 1032. And that's now set. Again, we are speeding up slightly. Let's just, and we have seem to have picked up a bit of manifold pressure, so let's just bring that back. Try and keep it below 180 if we can. Do we have? We do now have the Inverness VOR. Okay, so I'll tell you what we'll do. We want to swap the nav frequency that we're tuned into here. But before we do that, let's put the autopilot, let's sync the heading. And let's put the autopilot in heading mode. And then we'll switch nav freaks. So we'll go calm, we'll go here, and it's 109.2 we want on nav 1. Over, let's see if we get a readout. Yeah, Inverness confirmed 33 miles. We should be able to now just go back to nav and stay on the same radial. So let's just do that. Yeah, you can see we're a little bit off. So let's just swing the heading slightly right so we don't get such a big jump when we go to nav. And we'll just bring this needle in a bit and then we'll go back to nav mode. Just hopefully avoids the autopilot doing such an abrupt change of direction. If we go heading mode first and sort of bring the bearing in, then it can be better. And we are still descending, we're okay on speed. Again, I'm going to slightly throttle back. Not sure what the current winds are doing up here, so not sure which direction we'll be in. Blown, if any. I think they're slightly from the east, if anything. We still haven't intercepted that radio yet, so let's turn more to the right. We've still got the 009 radio selected. Yeah, we must be. We must have a strong headwind from the east because the airport's that way and we're heading this way, so of course we are trying to correct, so that could be that. Okay, we're nearly there now. I'm going to switch to nav. Let's switch to nav. I'm actually beginning to see what I think is the region around Inverness, so we need to be a bit careful here. We're still pretty high. actually be Loch Ness. "500 feet per minute" does seem to take a while to come down. I love the visibility you get from the DC-3. It's like a real panoramic cabin view. I think it's great. Now 25 DME. That's okay. So we want to be. So it only really gives us 15 miles to if we're allowing 10. And we've got a good 3,000 feet to lose. We should be okay. Just. Got to be careful here because we don't want to go below MSA, which I think is about 5,200 in this area, and we're actually below that now, but we can see. Yeah, so I think that's Inverness itself. So the airport's kind of behind this pillar. So we're on local QNH. When we get to about 20 miles, I'm going to start to switch the tanks back over and the mixtures and sort all that lot out in plenty of time. So let's do that when we get to 20. You can see there is some quite high ground here in the approach to Inverness. See if the passenger view works. So this is what you'd be seeing in that BEA flight on an early morning flight to Inverness. I'm sure this view wouldn't have looked much different in 1953. Right, are we 20 miles yet? Yes, we are. Okay, let's do fuel. Let's turn the pumps on. Let's go for the left main tank, the right main tank. We'll change the fuel gauge to check left main, right main, both of which look good. Pumps back off. That's good. Let's get mixtures back to auto rich. And let's go for some trailing car flaps. Okay. And I'm going to go landing lights as soon as we're getting relatively near the airport. If we haven't slowed enough, then we'll just have to make the circuit a wide one. A bit of low cloud here, but hopefully we'll be underneath it for the circuit and landing. You can drop the gear at any speed in the DC-3, so we could actually put the gear down early to help us slow down. How are we? 15 miles. 10 miles we want to be at 3,000 feet. Actually, we're not bad. We're not bad, so I'll leave the gear yet. Yeah, we're doing okay. These wind turbines look pretty close. In fact, I hope we're going to clear them. It's going to be tight. It's going to be embarrassing, isn't it? I guess they weren't there in 1953. I'm hoping this is a perspective thing and we are actually going to clear them. If not, I can pretend I've got a 1953 map. Oh my goodness, I think that might actually be chopped wings time. Although it doesn't look too bad, so bad from out here. Yeah, I think we've cleared them, but it's close. Not recommended. In fact, we're actually going to be pretty close to these hills. Do you know what? I'm going to disconnect the autopilot here. Need to slow down a bit anyway, so let's just level off. We do seem to. That's the problem with 500 feet per minute, is you do come in really shallow. I've not tried this before, 500, so still, this is a good way to help us slow down. So I guess if you were having to come in at 500 feet per minute, you might want to choose a different approach track. Right, where are we? We have landing lights on. We don't have pumps on yet. We don't have the gear down yet, but we'll do that on downwind. Yeah, let's just really shallow back this rate of descent now. And we also can get our speed back, drop down. We don't need the charts anymore because the weather's good enough for a visual approach. You can follow the green and yellow, or the green VOR needle to direct us directly to the airport now. We're coming down to 2,000 feet, which would be the height you'd approach if you were doing an overhead join. Effectively, we'll do our descent on this side of the airport, it's effectively the dead side. There's Inverness. Someone's put a pillar in the way, but I think essentially this is the airport. So we just want to watch now our speed and our descent rate. I think I'll just bring the power back a bit more. Let's get the RPMs maybe up towards 2,000. We're flying, well no, let's not, because we're not going really slow enough yet, so let's just slow it down a bit more. We don't want to be actually this low yet, so level off and slow down. Do you know what, I think I will drop the gear early just to help us slow down the final bit. No, I'm not getting any gear happening. That's a bit unfortunate. Done something to lock the gear or something? Or have we not got any pressure, or have I left the hydraulic thingy open? Okay, we have no gear. This is not good. Quite sure what would cause that. Clearly we can't land without gear, so let's level off and see if we can do. So there's the airport. So I'm gonna actually just overfly the airport. Aha! Is that gear? It's gear! Okay, I do not know what happened there, but we now have gear. Right, good. Okay, back to the original plan. Let's enter the circuit. And we want a circuit height of about 1100 feet. Now we can bring the props more towards the normal sort of range, 2000. 120, we don't want to go any slower than that. Let's just get down to circuit height. That's the runway, so that was weird. Not quite sure what happened there. Unless something had to build up pressure. Oops, slow down too much here. So I'm going to turn right in a second to go downwind. I'm trying to maintain about 120 and about roughly the correct circuit height. Mix is rich, cowl flaps are trail, landing lights are on, fuel pumps will put on at the end of the downwind. Just watch our speed here because I don't want to get too slow for the turn. Okay, let's turn right now. Heading about 050, which is about right. So runway over to our right. Stick about 120, stick about this height. The end of the runway we can see with the red sort of marker there, so we want to be abeam that. And then we want about a 45-degree angle, so if we head out towards the sort of past this outlet of land with Fort George on it, if we go past that, then start to think about turning, should give us about the right sort of distance. And don't forget, we already have the gear down. I don't want to make the circuit too tight here. It's in Gordon over there, it's the Orig servicing place. Okay, so we start to think now about turning base. Gear's already down, so I'm just going to give us some flaps, and I'm going to turn on the fuel boost pumps, and I'm going to start a turn to base and a slow descent. So let's just trim for a descent. A bit more prop RPM. Let's get that turn going. Got a little bit more than quarter flaps. I only meant to put in quarter flaps there, a bit further than that. Never mind. Seeing the end of the runway would help. There it is. Okay, that's good. Let's go half flaps now. get too much lower yet. We look sort of about right. Probably a bit high. Nice early morning sky here in Inverness. What time is it? 22, yep, that's fine. Start turn final, I think we'll need to take some power off now. Let's start the gradual turn final. Looks like we've got 2 reds, so we're about right, and our airspeed's not bad. We're a bit fast, but we can lose that in a minute. Okay, I'm going to pull some power off now to pitch back. I'm going to get the props full forward, ready for landing. I'm going to go 3/4 flaps. I usually land with 3/4 flaps most of the time, unless it's a very short runway. I'm not sure if that's something that you're meant to do, but it seems to work for me. Let's just bring her in, looking for about 90 miles per hour. Final approach speed. It's all going to be about my landings, which generally I stay on the runway, but they're not always very straight. Having said that, today I'm probably going to go off completely. Just easing the power back a bit now. Props are full forward, green on the landing gear. Mixture's rich, auto rich. Landing lights are on. Yep, fuel pumps are on. Get the feet ready on the pedals. As soon as we land, then I'll pull the power back and I'm going to drop the flaps, or raise the flaps basically, to help with control and braking and to avoid the tendency to try and take off again. Start looking along the runway now. Just pull the power back a bit and try and gently touch down. We're down, power back, flaps, bit of differential braking, bit of braking. Just gently get the tail back. There we go. Unlock the tail wheel. I think we've made it for the first turn off, which I don't always manage to do. So welcome to Inverness, everyone. I think 8:55 is the scheduled time, so we're about 10 minutes early maybe. Not too bad. I'm glad the gear came down. I really don't know what happened. I've never ever had that happen before like that. Okay, so while we're taxiing along here, I'm going to put transponder back to standby. Going to get trims back to 0, ready for the next flight. We've got flaps already up, so that's all done. I'm going to turn fuel pumps off. Pitos off. Landing lights can come off now as well. we'll just take a round to the main terminal. I'm not sure how much of where the main terminal was in 1953, so maybe we should stop. Now let's go to the main terminal. Let's do it properly, do it in style. This is what I like, a tail dragger that you can still see over the front of and you don't have to S-turn when taxiing. Best of both worlds. Okay, let's just pull in here at the end of the main terminal. We won't pull in too far because there's no pushback here, so you have to be able to have enough room to turn, go out again. So we'll just come to a stop about here, I think. Okay, so parking brake can come on. I'm going to turn position lights can come off. The battery can come off now. Mixtures can go idle cut off, which will stop the engines. Magnetos, we'll turn those off, and we'll pull off the ignition. Fuel pumps can go left off. Sorry, fuel is selected to off on both. Inverter off. Lights are already off. Beacon off, and all we got to do now is open the passenger doors. Ooh, interesting. There you go. We are at Inverness, and anyone departing here, have a good trip. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you soon in a future video when we're going to do the next leg, which will be from the timetable, which will be Inverness to Wick. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed today's flight. Bye for now.